Hi everyone, it's Yvette Blowitz from SPAITGIRL.com and welcome to the SPAITGIRL Talk Show podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you today in this online audio and video space and with our very special guest, Brita Fernandez Schmidt, who is currently serving as the Executive Director for Women International and is the Senior Vice President for Europe and External Relations globally. She co-founded Women International in Germany. Brita is also the chair of the Network Gender Action for Peace and Security and chief advisor to Fair Share. Previously, she was the programs and policy director at Womankind worldwide, and she started her career as policy officer at the European Women's Lobby. Brita has spent over 25 years meeting women from all around the world, and she, to this day, absolutely loves empowering women, and she is now the author of Fears to Fierce. Brita, welcome to the SPAITGIRL podcast show and welcome to our global audience. It's a pleasure and honor to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, Brita, your book, Fears to Fierce, is on Booktopia here in Australia. And can I say, women are resonating with it. They're buying it. They're reading it. And it's really making traction. Congratulations, first of all, on your book. It's your first book. How does it feel?
Oh, thank you so much, Yvette. It's so exciting. I can't even believe that there's a whole community reading my book, and it's just absolutely wonderful. And you know, I mean, for anybody who's written a first book, it's just an incredible experience. And I was listening to your podcast actually earlier, and there was another author who kind of had just brought out her first book, and so much of what she said, you know, resonated because it is a very intimate experience, and it's a very reflective experience. And obviously, because my main aim was, or my purpose behind the book and the intention was to offer my story and my learnings and the stories of other women that I've met over the last 25 years in the hope that it would inspire the reader to reflect on their story, on their journey, and to also spark ideas for action. Because I have got this sense, and we were talking about this earlier, weren't we, Yvette, that there is so much yearning within us, yearning for greater meaning, for finding our purpose, for understanding, you know, what are we meant to do, and do in a sense of actually impact and kind of, you know, being the change, which is one of my favorite phrases. And so spending some time really thinking about that, how am I doing this? What have I learned? And then including practical actions has been actually a lot of fun. I loved it all the way. And now seeing it out there and seeing that it's resonating with the readers is the biggest gift, basically.
Well, your book has been the biggest gift to us. So thank you so much, because you are helping all of your book readers, and I know everyone will be inspired to read Fears to Fierce. But before we dive into your book, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to want to serve and empower and help women globally?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm originally from Germany, and when I was 15, I moved with my family to Venezuela in Latin America. And that was really because my parents were teachers and they were offered an opportunity to teach at the German school in Caracas. And so this is how I found myself suddenly in a completely different continent, in a context that was very, very different to what I had ever experienced before. And I witnessed extreme poverty for the first time with my own eyes, and the inequality that comes along with it, and really observed observing the impact that that inequality has on women was for me like a wake-up call. It just ignited something within me that I call my fierce, because it literally is like a strong power that will not be tamed. That is just like saying, what is going on here, you know? And, you know, when you're young, I mean, you know, in this is like a key time of your life, isn't it? When you're really waking up to who you are, realizing your own identity, making sense of it in connection with others and society around you and the expectations that are being put on you based on your, you know, various identities. In my case, particularly this identity as a girl, as a woman, became very aware of just how loaded this all was, particularly in comparison to my brother, who didn't seem to have all of these expectations about being a good girl and, you know, being quiet and demure and just not rocking the boat, definitely not rocking the boat, right? And so this moving to Venezuela just ignited within me the deep sense of justice and wanting to do something about that, but at the same time also realizing that that was perhaps not the norm. And so this struggle within me really, I think, originated there, where I, on the one hand, had this fierceness within me that wanted to create change. And on the other hand, there was this fear that if I did follow my fierce, I wasn't going to be normal. I wasn't going to fit in. I wasn't going to belong. And so that struggle really has accompanied me all through my life. You know, I still followed my fierce in many ways, and I it shows a career, I guess, right, in helping women, in working for not-for-profit organizations that are dedicated to the advancement of women and women's rights and helping women, you know, own their power. But throughout that career, I also struggled with owning my own power. So I might well have been there serving others, but I didn't fully serve myself, which I think perhaps is something that resonates with your listeners, right? Which obviously is something that's very dear to your heart, isn't it, Yvette? To ensure that as we serve others, we also look after ourselves, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so this was this whole learning experience that I've had over the last 25 years. And that's why I wanted to write my book, Fierce to Fierce, and talk about that story. So it's very personal. So the reader will learn a lot about me, you know, as a young woman, as then kind of moving into motherhood, having children, and reflecting on those challenges and the fear that comes with that. And, you know, all the while this dance between fear and fierce, which I think is familiar to all of us, isn't it?
Yes, we can all resonate with the fears to fierce, but it's incredible at such a young age that you were able to pick up in that particular country that if you were a woman, you would do this kind of work or this kind of job. But if you were a male, you would do this. So obviously the segregation there based on just gender. And then as well as a female, what you should act like or be like. So was your mum an activist at heart, or was this just something you decided, this isn't fair? Like, why is she doing that job? Why isn't a boy doing this? Like, is that kind of what you were thinking at this very young age? Because it's such a incredible, unique story that someone at your young age could even have the wisdom or the vision or the foresight or that higher thinking. Because normally a kid would just see a woman doing a job and go, that's just a female doing a job. Okay. And not think about it and just get out their Barbies and, you know, play with the dolls. But did you really, like, how was your mum about all of this when you were saying to her, I don't think women should just do this?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So it was definitely, as I remembered, it was definitely me just seeing, I just couldn't understand it. It was literally just like, this does not make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me that women kind of taking care of all the children. And I remember this one woman I met, she had 4 children from 4 different men. And they all left her to her own devices. She had to care for them. The man never provided any support or financial support or presence. And I kind of kept thinking, why? And then also I didn't understand why she was allowing herself to be treated in that way by those men, right? And so that I remember that really vividly. And I also, remember that my father started treating my brother differently and asked me to help tidy the table and didn't ask my brother. And I just couldn't. It was literally like, I don't get that. Okay, sorry, why? Why are you doing that? So I just started to question it. But I realized very quickly that wasn't really normal. Not many people around me were questioning these behaviors. My mother always supported me. She wasn't an activist, but she definitely, she was definitely there, supporting me in whatever way she could, and she always has done. So I think that is why I was able, to then also, I started 25 years ago, Yvette. I did a master's in women's studies. That was very unusual then, and we were only like 7 women who were doing it. But she supported me in it, and so I think that's definitely perhaps why I've been able to follow that journey, even though there weren't many people around me who were behaving in the same way.
Wow! And you have met in your journey. You have gone to so many places where, when we think about having a bad day, it could be, as an example, we got a cup of coffee, the barista, maybe put the wrong milk in it, or, maybe we go online and our dress that we want to buy, the size isn't there for us. Like, what trivial things that we get upset about in the Western world, in this lavish world, compared to some of the places you have been, are just unthinkable. Like, I'm always grateful that I've got running tap water. I'm so, so deeply grateful that I've got clean running tap water, and it's it's right there for me. There's no shortage of water. Like, I'm just so grateful I can go to the supermarket if I run out of water and buy water. And I think for me, that keeps me very down to earth and very, always putting things into perspective. So it's very hard for me to get upset because I'm living this lavish life of clean water at the ready. So Brita, you've traveled to so many places. Like, what have you seen on your journey when it comes to women and some of the women's conditions where they live? Or you have so many stories. What comes to mind when you think of the vast difference?
Yeah, you know what, Yvette, first of all, just to say what you said is so important, that gratitude is perhaps the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves. Just every day, wake up and start the day by finding one thing that you're grateful for. And you know what? I believe that we can all do that it actually doesn't really matter where we live or in what circumstances we find ourselves. There's always something that you can find to be grateful for. And actually, rather than talking about the differences, and yes, there are many, and particularly the external circumstances, right, into which we are born. Because it's not like that, for some reason I deserve to have been born in Germany into a middle-class family and never have known poverty. And my sister Beatrice in the Congo, was born into a family of extreme poverty where she's experienced violence. And it's not because she deserves it. None of us deserve whatever it is that we have. We've just happened to have been born in that circumstance. And that then presents us with opportunities to learn. And that's how I look upon it. And I have learned this. I wasn't born like this. I've learned this is the journey that I've been on, and this is what I've learned, and I've learned it in particular through the women that I've met, women who have absolutely experienced things that to you and I would just be unimaginable. And there have been moments in my life where I've stopped and I thought, how are you still alive? And where I had moments where I've lost hope. And this is the one commitment that I have in my life, is that I will not lose hope, that I will always find hope somewhere, which is similar to gratitude. You can always find hope. You just have to look for it. You have to be committed to look for it. Otherwise, yes, it would be easy to become hopeless. So I am committed. And nevertheless, there have been moments, little split seconds, when the vastness of the cruelty and the inhumanity was so overwhelming that it took my breath away just for this split second. But every time in those moments, there would be this woman that I was talking to who was just sharing her story with me. And there she was, breathing, telling me her story. And that in its own right, just, who are you not to have hope, right? And so this is, like you say, Yvette, there's just this humility, this recognition of that life is such a mystical, beautiful, huge thing that we can only attempt, and we probably will never fully understand. And bringing that humility and this enormous gratitude. I'm looking outside of the window right now, and the sky is blue, and there's this beautiful tree, and it's just, and yes, obviously, do we all of us, the women that I've met too, sometimes get really worked up about the little things because we forget for a moment that actually they don't really matter. Yes, we do. And I also would say in those moments, don't beat yourself up because someone else on the other side of the world is having a really bad day and you're a bit grumpy because you don't have almond milk in your latte. It's okay, because we're human. Yes. We're human. We're just having a human experience, and we all lose it sometimes. But if we can develop a practice, right, to cultivate gratitude and to focus on what connects us with our sisters in countries affected by conflict and extreme poverty, and even though we were born in very different circumstances, the hope and the love and the gratitude links us and can help us to inspire ourselves, to aim for this, to realize that this yearning we have inside is actually valid. Follow it. This inspiration that you feel when you hear other stories or when you listen to podcasts like yours, there's something there. Follow that inspiration. Ask yourself, what is it telling you? And then go for it. And it can help you to let go of the fear that will keep you back, right? And it will also help you to perhaps not sweat the small stuff.
I love your story. And when you obviously have these women that share this story, which is unthinkable, and you say, I just don't know how you're alive, and their presence, that they've survived and they're breathing and they're there sharing the story. Like, I'm getting goosebumps from that moment, because I always feel that, adversity or hardships, people overcoming things that are unthinkable, unimaginable, survivors of whatever it might be, are the most empowering people of all, especially when they find their voice and are able to share that also to help others. So I love, 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 love the work you do. And I know now with COVID-19, obviously so many women are affected in different ways. Whether that be women at home who are on their own in the UK and haven't had family around them and been alone. Then we have other people, other women losing their jobs. We've got a variety of issues. I love your constant message of sisterhood. and just checking in with your sisters. And I love your constant message of learning about other women in other parts of the world and educating ourselves more in that. And I feel that that's so important, Brita. Can you speak to that about the sisterhood, the learning, and becoming more aware?
Yeah, exactly. I think that we can, as we learn more about ourselves, what helps me is to also listen to other stories, listen to the stories of other women, whether they are sisters that I call them sisters, but whether these are women in the UK where I live, or in Germany where I also work, or in Australia, or indeed in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or in Nigeria, or in Afghanistan, or in northern Iraq. It's stories that make us connect with ourselves, and it makes us connect with others. And this is what towards the end of my book, I talk a lot about sisterhood, like you say, because obviously it's a self-development book, right? And it's absolutely aimed at you and your journey, tapping into your power, finding your purpose, enriching your life. And some people say, self-help is very selfish, is very focused on the self, and that's really there's a problem there. And I disagree, because in my experience is when you can't just focus on yourself in isolation of others. I don't think that is actually how self-help in my experience works. Automatically, as you're asking yourself, how can I better serve my purpose? How can I better, be of service in this world? It's really not just about how you change your being. It's actually how you change your being in relation to others. Right? And that as you're changing, you are creating an impact, and becoming aware of the impact that you create, even just being who you are, whether you smile at people when you walk, or whether you allow yourself to believe that you can make a difference. I mean, that in itself is revolutionary. And in that moment, you are deciding that you matter. And then you decide how you want to matter in the world. And that's when you start connecting with others, and you get inspiration from women and men who have allowed themselves to believe that they matter, that they can survive adversity, because we all experience adversity at one point in our lives. And it's often in those moments that we fear that we're not going to be strong enough, isn't it? And yet, if we look back over our lives, we will see that there have been moments in our lives that we have already survived and thrived afterwards, but also that there are other people who have overcome far greater adversity, which shows us that the human potential for overcoming adversity is unbelievable, isn't it? And so connecting with others, and then asking yourselves together, how can we create the change that we want to see? How can we join together? How can I, with my story, create a platform for others to say, me too? In fact, I talk about the Me Too movement as an example, right? It started with one woman sharing her story, and then the next one is saying, me too, me too, me too, me too, me too. It's like echoes and ripples in the water, and we're creating a movement. And that is how big societal change is created. It starts with one person. It always starts with one person. And then it continues with another person saying, me too, but you have to say it. It's not, and this second person is as important as the first one. And the third one is as important as and so this, we need to just remember, every person has the power. Yeah.
I love this. I love this. And I did love that in your book, because we really saw the power of, I guess, the Me Too movement, but in particular, not necessarily, it wasn't a highlight of Australian politics in any way, but a young girl came forth and shared her story, and sadly she'd been sexually abused and raped in Parliament House, in the government Parliament House. And whilst they're still investigating, regardless, this young girl was so brave to speak out about it. I mean, they say it's David and Goliath? Who speaks out against a government when they run everything and do everything? And it took great courage for this young girl to do this. But what was really empowering was to see other women then. She then gave them a voice. And then other women were coming forth and sharing what had happened to them in the workplace, in the government. And it just went another person, another woman. And it really was me too. That's happened to me too. And it was so incredible. And the first time, I think, in Australia in my time, had I seen women all get together and rally, come together at Parliament House, and I saw Indigenous women, Aboriginal women, I saw women of every colour, race, ethnicity coming together as one, as Australians, as one, as a women's group, and all standing up for women's rights and what women deserve, with the belief that no one should ever go to work and be sexually abused or raped in any situation. And it was just like there's just been an outrage of what's happened to this young girl. But at the same time, I know that especially when the women are in the aged care home and they're in their 80s or late 70s or 90s, they are just like, we've never seen this before. And that girl is so brave. That girl is just, wow, like what a brave girl to talk about such a traumatic event. And then on the flip side, of course, you have people that go, oh, well, it's not true yet. It's still got to be, go to court and la, 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 la. But what we do know with the Me Too movement, Brita, and in your experience, no woman, from what I have seen, ever comes out with a tragic story or tragedy. Like they're there to share their story. It's so real, and they then empower other women to share their story. And it's the only way, by one person sharing their story, that we find out about many, many more stories. And it is uncovered. It's the veil is off now. We didn't know this was going on, but we know now. And had that one girl not come forth, or maybe all the other women, we would have never known. We would have gone another 20, 30, 40 years and not been having these rallies or not having these discussions. And now they're really looking into the safety of women. So that's why I love your book, Fears to Fierce, because you believe we are all activists, and being an activist is believing that your voice matters and using your voice. Can you share more about that, Brita?
Yes, I mean, honestly, it makes me like all emotional. I had goosebumps also, you just telling the story about the young woman in Australia and speaking out, because it's just, why do we believe that somehow we have to earn the right to use our voice? Why do we believe that we have to earn the right, or that someone needs to give us permission when we have a voice? By birth, we've been given a voice. Why do we believe that some people just are born with the inherent right for their voice to be used, and for others not? That doesn't make any sense. So I want to question that, and I want to help for all of us to tap into our power and realize we have a voice for a reason, and we mustn't be scared to use it, and we mustn't wait for permission. We can use it now. If you sense within you that something isn't right, you don't have to have all the knowledge, and you certainly don't have to have all the answers in order to say that's not right. Right? It's not right that a young woman has experienced sexual abuse in Parliament, and then that she wouldn't potentially speak up. Because like you say, she might not have spoken up because there's so much shame attached to it as well, isn't there? So much shame and so much silence,
exactly.
which is so debilitating. And shame is the worst of it all, because we've internalized that there's something wrong with us, fundamentally wrong with us, that somehow maybe we caused this. And that's why so many of us don't speak about the abuse that we have maybe experienced in our lives, because we are so ashamed. And so to break that taboo is enormous. And that's why it's so powerful. And that's why I say also in my book, as I witness another woman's rising and her using her voice, she gives me wings. Because you suddenly realize, okay, it is possible. It's we can do this. We can do this together. And this is the thing. And so in this sense, this kind of, you don't have to have specific qualifications. You don't have to have specific job titles. You have a voice, you have a sense within you of, what you think about something. Use your voice. You don't have to be aggressive about it, right? And I loved how you describe how women from all ages and ethnicities and political affiliations just came together, because we can be different and united.
Yes.
Who would have known, right?
Yeah, you're so right.
Yes. Yeah.
You're so right. And even to see, we had Lisa Wilkinson, who's a renowned TV presenter, a news reporter, and it gives me goosebumps. And really the message was, we will not be silenced. And you're so right. Women, if they are abused, are so embarrassed. And there's always been this census, and we've heard it before. Oh, she probably brought it on herself. She might have been drinking and let him on, and it's a load of BS. But this is what's so empowering about your Fierce to Fierce, is there just might be other women out there, or even men, who perhaps have experienced something or don't believe in something. Now, we can talk about everything from animal cruelty to maybe they're passionate about aged care facilities and wanting to improve them. It could be about their roads. It could just be about anything, whatever it might be. And I've also been speaking, Brita, to women who have over the years had sponsored. My auntie has had a sponsored child in India, and does a monthly sponsorship there, and has done it for 9 years, and felt immensely fulfilled that this young boy is going to school and has an education. Brita, what's your thoughts on and beliefs that we can all contribute, can't we, to either our local community, our country, or anywhere in the world now?
Absolutely, exactly. And it's such an incredible, because I thank you for asking me that question, because this is something that's very close to my heart. And it goes back to what we said earlier about voice. So we have a voice. We also have within us power, right? It's our own authentic power that is already within us. So nobody is going to give it to you, right? And we sit here thinking, waiting for somebody to come and say, okay, Brita, why don't you do this, or whatever it is, right? No. You can do this for yourself. And this is kind of where inspiration comes in. So if you read about something, say, like you say, care homes for the elderly, or about donkeys being abused, it literally doesn't matter. Like you say, what matters is that you tune in with yourself and you realize when something moves you. And then you say, wow, honestly, I've got tears in my eyes. I've got goosebumps. I really need to do something about this. This really, really matters to me. And it's like, oh, okay, so this matters to me, right? And so instead of then thinking, oh yeah, but what can I do about that? This is like, what am I? Who am I to think that I can do something about this? And what I want you to do is, I want you to literally write that question down and then literally cross it out, and then replace it with, who am I not to believe that I can do something about this? Because how do you think all the change that we've seen in recent years, how do you think this happened? It's happened because somebody decided, actually, this is not okay. And the moment you decide that, it's like you're telling the universe, I'm open for business, literally. And then what happens is then you obviously take action and you start Googling maybe, okay, can I find an organization that supports, that kind of old people who are living in care homes who are really lonely, or, if that's the example, or rape survivors in Australia, because I've been so moved about it. So let me find out more. Then you find maybe an organization, or maybe you talk to a friend, and suddenly you realize that this friend is also passionate about it, and you've never talked about it because it just never came up. And then suddenly you say, you know what, let's do something together. Let's talk to our jobs. Maybe we can together sponsor a run, and we can raise some money for a shelter. I mean, anyway, literally, because the thing is, what happens when you say to the universe, I'm open for business, the universe will bring you other people, other opportunities, ideas, and next thing you know, you have created something that in your wildest dreams you would never have imagined. And not only are you making a difference for the cause that you care about, but you know what? You have enriched your life, your existence, because you have just realized that you've got that immense power within you to create change. And then suddenly you think, wow, if I did that, maybe I could give up this job that I don't really like. Maybe I could actually allow myself to do something that I really care about. Maybe I could set up my own business. Maybe. And that is the beauty of it.
Yes. And I mean, Brita, you are an absolute expert at this, because Women for Women International was born, co-founded with your belief of, hang on a minute, I can do something about this. And I know that we can all resonate with we've been there, what could I do about this? But really, you empower us to go, like you said, cross that out. What am I going to do about this? And I just love your energy. It just radiates, like it's so electric, and you're so passionate, and so much energy is coming from you. It's incredible. And in your book, you talk about creating this life we want. At the moment, we have a trend of girls, women, maybe even men, where they're feeling insecure. So we've got these social media apps, and quite often they're highlight reels. So, perfect pictures, perfect videos. Young girls are believing they have to look a particular way to fit in. I liked how from a young age you discovered that, hang on a minute, I've got a saying, Brita, I'm not going to fit in, I'm going to fit out. Which is kind of like what you discovered as a young girl as well, where what I'm going to say isn't going to fly, and what I'm going to do is not going to fly. Here's an example, Brita. There was an Instagram trend, and it was if you were an influencer and did lingerie, and hello, I've got 10 double D breasts, so that would be incredible. I'd just really increase my followers, increase my likes, and it was pushed hard, pushed heavy. And I said no. I said I passed on many things, whether that be products that were tested on animals, brands I didn't believe in. I left the money on the table. I said no, because I stayed true to myself. And I also said I want to be remembered more than my body, or more than my breasts. I don't want to be known about that. It's not going to be popular. I'm not going to grow my following. So what? And, I've never regretted that decision. And money doesn't mean anything to me. Staying true to myself does. But if there was a young girl that was saying, Brita, I just feel like, there's this big notion that sex sells. We've always known that. And when you're a young girl, or even me as a woman I think I was in my 30s or late 30s, There was immense pressure if I was going to be an influencer to look a particular way, and I said no. Insecurities. How can someone become more secure in who they are? I first of all say turn off social media and go for a walk out in nature and connect to your own self. What's your take on this, Brita?
I mean, number one, I agree. Turn off social media and go for a walk in nature. That is actually my number one self-care tip.
Now, I love it. I love it.
Right. I mean, I love it. I love it. It's absolutely right, Yvette. There's so many. I mean, this is such a vast topic, and it's such an important one. I've got 2 young daughters. They're 20 and 18. So this is very, very relevant to me and to what I think about a lot. And I believe that nothing is all bad or all good, right? So social media has some amazing, wonderful things, and it also has some real dangers and some real harm. And the most important thing, as with everything, is that you really get to know yourself, tune in with yourself. So as you're on your Instagram, say, and you kind of, this is really nice, and then suddenly something switches, right? And suddenly you're getting like all tense, and you're comparing yourself, and you're getting all envious, and you kind of you're thinking your life isn't good enough. It's not hardly. That's like, big warning signs, because that's when you enter into the voice in your head that's suggesting that you're not good enough, that you're not smart enough, that you're not pretty enough, not sexy enough, whatever it might be, not enough. And when you're in that mindset, you need to just catch yourself, catch it. Realize this is what you're doing. It's the voice in your head that is suggesting this. It doesn't really mean that you are not enough, right? So this is the key thing for me that really changed my life, is to realize that the voice in your head, that's not you. You are the awareness of that voice. You are becoming aware that this voice is suggesting to you all of these horrendous thoughts, right? That you're not good enough, you're ugly, you're fat. What do you even want? Why do you even bother? That's like, wow, okay, this is like the horrible voice. And now I need to stop, and I need to ask myself, what will help me to keep that voice on one side and replace it, or find an alternative voice? And this is the key for me, that asks yourself, there's only one Brita. There's only one Yvette. There's only one of you. You are precious. I mean, you are just the most special, unique person walking this earth, because you are. Every single one of you who are listening to this conversation, you're unique. What a gift. And so how can you celebrate your uniqueness? How can you become your own cheerleader? And this is what I've done with myself. I literally retrained. So I still have that voice. By the way. I have it. So I tune in, and this is when I switch off my Instagram. The voice. Okay, switch off Instagram. Go to nature, look at trees, and ask myself, what matters to me? Who do I want to be? Yes, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. I just want to be Brita. I want to be the best version of me. I don't want to compare myself to others. I just want to speak from my heart about what I feel, in the belief that matters. And when you go on that journey, and you need to find, it's like a routine. It's like you're building a muscle. It's not easy. It's not easy. I know it's not easy, but you can do it. You can do it. And I use meditation as well. I use yoga. Anything that brings you back to your breath, that reconnects you to your awareness and gets you out of your head and into your heart, right, will help you to connect with your core. And you can visualize, I sometimes visualize this warm light inside of me, that's who I want to be. And that it's like, and then I allow envy or whatever it is that's keeping me stuck in my head to wash through me, right? To just let it go, just breathe, wash through it. It's fine. And I don't give myself a hard time, because it's normal. We all have these moments.
Yes.
Let it go and come back to, who do you want to be?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So the message is, who do you want to be? And I loved how you said, I just want to be the best version of me. Brita, just the best version of me. And it's so interesting, Brita, because on this conversation, the latest research shows that if you the best practice for the best health and best mental health at this stage is only 30 minutes usage of social media, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. So that's only 30 minutes. Also, there's research that is linked to using image-based apps, so platforms like Instagram, which is all about body image and photos. As an example, I often say we've got confused about blogging. Blogging was once writing, and you wrote from your heart and soul, and it was about reading the words, so it had nothing to do with the way I looked. I often say no one gave a shit about how I looked. No one cared. No one cared what writers looked like, what authors looked like, what, like no one cared. And then we got these photo-based apps, and we went from posting, like even with me with the travel, posting a photo of a bath, and then all of a sudden next the trend is you're the blogger. You got to get in the bath. People want to see you and connect with you in the bath. I mean, seriously, I'm going to be in the spa bath when I'm 80 years old. And I'm wondering, are people still going to love this trend? But so they're saying that when you use image-based technology, it's linked to everything. It can trigger anxiety, comparison, basically body image and comparison. It's gone way beyond, say, a magazine. So magazine, we had like one person to compare and maybe only 30 people in the magazine, and the magazine only came out once a month. Now you've got 300 or 3,000 photos to compare. So I love your honesty with that. And I'm sure that's really going to help our audience. You've touched on when was the time, I want to ask you this, Brita, when was the moment, first of all, Women for Women International, if someone's listening and going, you know what, I really don't understand what Women for Women International is. Can you share more about what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I just wanted to quickly say, because I forgot to do that in the last conversation, last question. I just wanted to acknowledge that I thought it was really inspiring to hear you talk about your own story and how you found the courage within you to say no, about using your body in a way that wasn't comfortable to you. That's real, such incredible strength, and it's really inspiring that you share that, because that's exactly what it takes, isn't it? It really takes you asking yourself, what matters to me? What are my values? And then acting according to those values, and not letting yourself be pushed or tempted into all manner of things for the sake of followers. Where's that? I mean, do you know what's really interesting? When my publicist was my agent was trying to get a publisher for my book, there are a couple of publishers, really big publishers, who wanted to publish my book, but they said, but Brita needs to get more followers, and once she has more followers, we'll publish it. And so then my agent said to me, okay, Brita, you need to get more followers. I'm like, no, no, I don't. I'm not is my job title a follow getter? No. I do what I do, and I create my community organically because we find each other, right? But I'm not going to sit here and say every day I need to grow my followers. But it took me a moment. It took me a couple of weeks. I had already started making plans. Okay, here's how I'm going to get more followers. And I'm like, oh my God, this feels really awful. No, I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
Thank you. I'm not doing that, right?
Yeah. And the other thing, Oh, thank you. Because look, trust me, I'd be a lot wealthier if I took every offer that came on my plate, like some of the money that was being thrown around even 4 years ago. But what I find fascinating about blogging, and I say this openly, no one gave a shit about blogging when there was no money in it. 10 years ago, you could blog. You could have had a blog. You could have blogged. Even 6 years ago. But no one was interested because there was no money. There was no so-called going to events and being like, ooh, I'm so popular because I'm standing in front of this branded thing. You know, it was all self-imposed. I have a belief that you aren't famous unless you walk down the street and someone stops you for your autograph. And I stick by that. And that's how I stay really down to earth and really grounded, because like I know, as an example, if Oprah walks down the street, everyone's going to go, Oprah, I want your autograph. You know, that's legit. But I do see this, I see one danger in followers or pushing for more followers. You can lose touch of the reality, the real world.
Yeah.
So like some person might have 1 million followers, or even 500,000 followers, even 100,000 followers, but they can walk down the street and no one would even know who they are. So I feel that we've just got to keep that into perspective. And the other thing on that is it's got nothing to do with the followers. It should always be to do with the message,
exactly,
the intention, the purpose, and the work of the author. So credit to you, Brita, for staying true to yourself and going, that's okay. I'll wait till there's a publishing house that believes in this message.
And this is exactly what happened, right? And I found the perfect publishing house, and I've absolutely loved working with them, and it's all good. And I think that's it's stand up for your convictions. I think is always rewarded, and because you're just not going to be comfortable if you go with something that doesn't feel right. So yeah. But just coming back to Women for Women International, it's an organization that works in countries affected by conflict, and what we do is we support women to go through a year-long program where they learn new skills that allow them to earn and sustain an income afterwards. They learn about their rights and the fact that they have a voice and that they can use the voice. They meet other women, really important. So they build social networks and break the isolation that they so often feel. And then they also obviously get advice on how to look after themselves more, whether that's their health or that's their nutrition, and so obviously also mental health. So it's really a very holistic program that's aimed at reminding power within to guide that they are that they desire and to improve their lives. And it's a beautiful work, and you can obviously, it's really easy to find us on all social media channels, and learn more about the work we do, and I hope that you'll follow us.
Yeah, well, definitely. And Brita, before COVID-19, you did obviously a lot of travel because you love meeting people and hearing their stories and meeting women. What is one place that comes to mind in all of the travel you've done?
Wow, that's a really good question.
That's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it really is, because I've got so many beautiful memories, and actually I've been really nurturing them, and if they've been nourishment for me in this last year. I'm able to go back in my mind and in my heart, to all these beautiful places, and the warmth that I've experienced from humans there. But when you just spoke, Nigeria came to my mind, northern Nigeria, which is really an extremely poor part of Nigeria. And in general, it's actually within the African continent, an extremely poor region, and has been experiencing conflict for decades, where the farming community fighting against the Fulanis, and it's obviously also the area, it's not very far from where Boko Haram, which is a terrorist group, is causing havoc and great insecurity and vast numbers of internally displaced people as a result in the area where Women for Women International is operating. And I went there to visit the team who are all local there, and to meet the women and to speak to them. And there were a group of women that had been through our year-long program, and we had trained them as change agents because they were particularly excited about rediscovering their voice and the power and their knowledge, and they wanted to use it to create change in the community. So not just in their own lives, but really use that enthusiasm and power to change the community. And one of the big challenges in that community, in the area where I was rape, and that women were being raped, and that the perpetrators weren't taken to justice. The police just didn't have the capacity or didn't really care. And so these change agents came together in groups of like 30 and would literally single-handedly challenge the rapist and take them to the police station to get them, locked up and convicted. And they were telling me these stories, and I was like, oh my goodness, but I mean, are you not scared? This is so brave. I mean, this in like a super traditional community, right? And they looked at me, and I mean, they had power, Yvette. It was amazing. And they looked at me and said, Brita, scared? No, we are change agents and we are together. Why would we be scared? And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, right? What can you say?
Wow, that is the power. That is just the most incredible. You know what? They just couldn't do it. One on their own couldn't do it, but by coming together, and this goes back to that sisterhood that you talk about, and finding your fears to fierce, and they're making massive change. And they're going to be sending a very stern message that we will not take this or tolerate this. And, it's incredible, like that women, you shared that story where they don't even have a judicial system that even goes, this is wrong and you're going to get arrested for this. Whereas in Australia, a woman has the ability to share what happened and report it, so it can be investigated and it can be go to court and things like that, or people are reprimanded for breaking violation of women and sexually abusing women. So, but to see in their country what they are doing, and all through Women for Women International, no wonder you're just like, you just get so much inspiration and empowerment and fulfillment, and it just fills your heart. Brita, how now, with not being able to fly into these places due to COVID-19, are you really, I guess this is probably where you love technology, like we're here today, we're doing this via video. This to me is one of the powerful aspects of social media or technology, one of the positives to come from it. Are you now having to connect with your community and Women for Women via videos and technology?
Yeah, so we have teams in the countries where we operate, and so I'm speaking to my colleagues regularly. Obviously, I can't connect with the women in the community because they don't have access to technology in the same way. But so I'm relying on the stories and the photos and the reports that our team are sending, and they are inspiring, and I'm so in awe of how the teams, despite COVID, have maintained contact with the women, have been able to continue to provide them with access to information and resources, particularly now when actually they need it more than ever before. So I've been taking a lot of courage from that, and to be honest, I can't even quite imagine actually that's been this long that I haven't traveled. I do miss it enormously. I just miss connecting with people in real life, which I think a lot of us are in that place. But I'm finding a lot of gratitude from the knowledge that there are so many of my colleagues who are doing this fantastic work despite the challenging circumstances. And I also take a lot of courage from the fact that there are so many of us around the world who have continued to support this important work, even though there is also so much need now in our backyard. And I always say to everybody, it doesn't have to be either or. Why don't we aim for and? I can help my neighbors and women in countries affected by conflict, and I think, and I've seen that actually. I have seen a lot of generosity in the last year, a lot of generosity in spirit and financially and in resources. And that's given me a lot of courage. And that is what I choose to hold on to and amplify.
Yes. It's interesting you say that, because over the last 12 months, or since COVID hit, one of the most incredible things to see is women or people coming together. And we're so interested now in how other people are doing in other countries and what's happening in their country. And it really has been a great awakening. We're just realizing just how so connected we are as one. And I always say that we are brothers and sisters on Mother Earth, and we're visitors here. I learned that at a very young age. We're all visitors on Mother Earth, and we're brothers and sisters, and we come from the earth and we will return to the earth. And like dust, we are one. Like mud and dirt, we go to the earth. So that to me is just seeing the generosity and the love and how interested people are in their own backyard, plus other countries. And for all of the people in India at the moment, our heart is pouring out to them as a community also. And just to see humanity and people's compassion and empathy and kindness and caring. Obviously, these are the things you won't get on mainstream news, as they say, but just, when you connect with people and listen to podcast shows. And I know one of my podcast guests currently, she is from India, and her family, her father has contracted COVID-19, and we're all praying for them each day. We're praying for them. So I feel that we're more connected than ever before.
Yes.
I really do. I feel that we have this awakening of other countries and other people, and that's a positive thing.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really beautiful what you just said.
Yeah, Brita, I want to ask you, obviously now Fierce to Fierce, we've got people buying your book in Australia, and really loving your ability to share your story, what you've accomplished, how you really went for your voice. But with you've got 2 daughters. They're growing up in a world which is really about marketing yourself or becoming a personal brand or really putting yourself out there. Now, we've gone back to the old school way, which the belief is if you don't want to put yourself out there and live a public life, that's okay. Now, I say life, the world will keep spinning, and everything will be fine.
Yes.
But with your girls, are you finding they want to become an activist in Women for Women International? Have they got topics they're really passionate about? Because I see the younger generation, a generation of hope. They're really passionate about the climate. They're really passionate about, equality, fairness, treatment of people, whether that be people, getting a good pay on a farm in India or a good pay they're so conscious about their clothes. Like, who's made my clothes? Who was it? where from. It's just their awareness is well beyond my years when I was a young kid. Does this give you hope? You've got young girls.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, all the subjects that you just touched on, the environment, consumerism, the manufacturing of goods, animal cruelty. Both my daughters are vegan, and absolutely both my daughters predominantly buy clothes secondhand, really care, and have actually helped me and have educated me around the environmental impact of all manners of things, and so it's enormously inspiring. Absolutely. And I look around me, and I love, by the way, I love being with young people and seeing how differently they are approaching life, and part of my desire to write the book was absolutely aimed at that generation. I guess, the kind of 18 to 25, because I can see in my daughters and my daughter's friends and in the young people who work with me, they are not willing to kind of do the traditional, okay, let me do my job, and then when I've got enough money, I'll care about social causes. No. They said, I'm going to do my job with a company that already cares and can show me, what their carbon footprint is, what their social corporate responsibility policies are. And I think that's just amazing, because it means that change is going to be accelerated, which is what we need, because we don't have endless time to address the environmental impact of our current society, for example. So I think it's hugely inspiring, and I think to empower and understand younger generations is vitally important, and not to judge, because it is very, very different, and it's very easy to say, well, they just think they can have it all, or blah blah. Just don't judge, try and understand. It doesn't mean that you have to be like them, but try and understand, what can we learn, how can we have a dialogue, how can we converse, how can we bring together the different perspectives, and utilize this amazing energy that is coming from the younger generations. And I mean, my daughters, both of them, they're both super clear around gender inequality, and definitely would I call themselves feminists. They're also both, as I say, really super care about the environment, but also I don't think are interested in just following the well-trodden path. This kind of idea that I'm just going to do things because that's how they are done. No. Not interested. And they're also very interested in understanding themselves and developing this higher consciousness and awareness, and freeing themselves from assumptions and judgment, which I think is super inspiring.
That is so inspiring, because for them to be at their age and to be self-aware, like my self-awareness came about probably in my 30s, really late on in our generation. We just and and to see how self-aware they are. And you're so right, like my nieces, they won't use any products that are tested on animals, and I'm very big on that. And you're so right, they don't want anything that harms animals. They're so passionate about the environment. But you're right, there's actually a big shift now with the generation wanting to buy brands that give back and have a greater cause, or are doing good in the world along with businesses. And I really feel it's going to be a way of the future. So it's a really positive, and you're so right. I actually just had to sit back and go, you know what? I've been blogging for 10 years, but you know what? You young people can teach me a thing or two about, because you can learn from everybody and be open. And it's so hilarious when my little niece is teaching me a TikTok, and I don't know the song and I don't know this, but I give it a go. And just having
That's
the
lovely.
ability, I know, having the ability to connect and just listen, and they learn from me and I learn from them. And it's really, really important. But I did go through a stage where I was like, you know what? I don't believe in people buying you mobile phones. You shouldn't have it. You shouldn't be on social media until you're 18. It should be like a car license. I mean, I went through that stage, and then I realized that, hey, hang on a minute, settle down, settle down. Like, but I flipped it around and went, I've got to learn from you, and I've got to be open and appreciate. Now, Brita, you give so much to others. You are always helping other women. You are always giving women a platform who might not have a platform. You do many talks that are on YouTube. You're an advocate. You speak up for other women. You share other women's stories. You really raise the awareness to such a high level. You give. You don't stop giving. But we talked about this before the podcast show. You've learnt in your journey as a mum and as Brita, how do you take care of yourself, and how do you fill your own cup up? And what are some of your go-to self-care rituals?
Yeah, it's such an important question, isn't it? It's taken me so long, and I can't now believe actually just how hard it is for us, particularly as women, I feel, to care for ourselves, because we have this archaic belief that it's selfish to care for ourselves, that we are there to care for others. And obviously I love caring for others. I mean, caring for others makes me happy, right? So I'm not denying that, and I will never deny myself that, because it is something that gives me a lot as well, right? It doesn't just... But the fact is that I need time to myself. And just to even say that was such a big deal for me, to say, I now need to be on my own, was like, oh, really? Can I say that? And now I celebrate it. Now in fact, just the other day, I went away on my own, for a week, and I felt a little bit guilty, and I thought, my husband doesn't really like it, my children, blah, blah, blah. But in the end of the day, it's just a week. Really, do I not deserve like a week? Yes, of course I do. But this notion that you deserve something is also so hard for us as women. At least I still struggle with that. But it's just this, for me, what really helps me is, I've got my morning routine. So I get up really early and I go either for a run or for a walk, and it's just me time with my dogs. And then I come back and either do a workout or I do yoga, and then I meditate. And sometimes it's just 5 minutes, sometimes 10. If I can, 20 minutes, then it's like, oh. And then I start the day. But that time to myself is just, if I do that, I literally feel I can cope with anything. If I give up on that, it's not good. And so I've learned that the hard way. And I love reading. So on weekends, I try not to fill my weekends too much. And I keep on nurturing myself. I've also started to coach. So for the last 3 years on the side, I've been coaching just a few women. And so one of the things I'm doing at the moment, I'm doing a deep kind of transformational coaching training. So I like to also continue to learn, and that really helps me. It really gives me a lot of energy. So those are kind of some of my practices.
Wow. And when it comes to, obviously, when you are taking on board all of these sometimes tragic stories, torturous stories, really heavy stories, do you have to, like, say in the evening, if you've had a really heavy day, just try and clear your energy, or try to sort of, because I know, I'm so sensitive. Like, someone can tell me their heartbreaking story, and I can feel their pain and their heaviness, and it's just, I don't know, you call it an empath, but How do you kind of then clear or kind of create that space?
Yeah, I have. In fact, I've got my hand on my heart right now. I can feel what others feel very, very deeply, and I had to learn to actually protect myself, because at times I would travel, and I would come back home, and I would have to be in bed for a week, just crying, because I had taken it all in without filters, and it literally was within me, all that pain and all that sadness, and I had to just kind of let it out in that way. And so now what I do also with my coaching clients or with other situations, I prepare myself, through breathing and through visualization, and just keeping myself protected, so it doesn't just all swamp into me, and without even really realizing. I mean, it might sound a little bit strange to some of your listeners, but I think it might resonate with you if you think about, sometimes you're in a situation and then afterwards you feel so drained, and it's because you have perhaps not looked after your energy, and everything is just kind of invaded you, and you're unbalanced, and you are really struggling with a lot of pain that isn't really your pain, it's someone else's pain. And so to try and now I know this about myself, I protect and I visualize like a protective, I put like this protective suit on. I imagine it like a diamante cut suit. And that just protects me. It doesn't mean that my energy can't shine out. Definitely doesn't mean that I'm not feeling empathy. I absolutely still feel it. It's just I don't all take it in unfiltered, And that's been absolutely vital, Yvette, for me. Yes.
Yeah, so that is incredible that you shared that. And I really wanted to ask you that because there could be women who are, like you said, if they want to volunteer with sort of rape victims or some really tragic, sad situations. And that's going to be pretty heavy. Like there are times, like I even know when I wrote my book, It Starts With Me, I started doing these little talks at yoga studios. But then afterwards, women would come up and share all of the devastating stories. And it was so heavy. And then I managed to speak to a woman who was an energy healer, and her mother never gave her Panadols as a kid. She just treated her with crystals, like, and she said, Yvette, you've just got to protect your energy field. And she recommended like a spritz of black onyx, but a spray, or just like you said, preparing, clearing the energy, and imagining this white light around you. And afterwards, I really researched a lot of this. So there were things like having a shower and then just imagining.
Yes, exactly, like a power shower.
Yeah, like imagining all of that, just releasing. And then there were things on YouTube like even when you're a spa therapist, there was a spa therapist teacher who one day said, if you just go, like, basically for anyone who wants to go to my YouTube channel, you'll see what I'm doing, but I'm just sort of flicking off, the energy off your chest sort of thing, and getting rid of it and clearing it. But there are so many ways. And I really believe that there's actually now neuroscience where they've got up to 3 meters. They've got, they're doing research that your energy field can expand when you are connected to your heart up to 3 meters. So we definitely have to clear our chakras, as they say, or energy fields. So Brita, with we're just going to be wrapping up this podcast show, though I could talk to you for hours and hours, and I'm sure our listeners are loving this real talk. We haven't held back. It's not been PC. It's not been politically correct. It is what it is. We've just spoken from our own heart and soul. which I feel is so important if you want to be creative or if you want to be your unique self, and you talk about this in your book. It's got to come from your own heart and soul.
Yeah.
And Brita, I have a saying which you will probably love this, and our listeners. When we use social media apps, we don't compare our spirit with anyone else or our heart. We don't say, oh, my spirit is so different to her spirit. My heart is different to her heart, my spirit, because people think spirit, what? That's still woo-woo. But as you know, we're all a spirit and energy. But I just thought that would crack you up. So next time you think, that voice is like comparing the body, be like, hang on a minute. What about her spirit? Which is hilarious.
Exactly.
But Brita, now what is your... Yeah, I knew you'd love that. I had to share that with you. So whenever you hear the voice of comparison, it'll be like, what about the spirit? What about her spirit? But we never do compare.
Exactly.
We never compare our spirits. So what's your hope now for your book readers? Fierce to Fierce, because we're going to be so inspired. I encourage everyone to grab a copy of Brita's book, especially if you want to become more confident in your own self, share your own story. It really helps you to find your passion, your purpose, to believe you can take action, to believe you can be the change and make a difference. It's so empowering, Brita, your book. Really, really empowering. A real must read, especially for any person that wants to turn their fears into fierce, which I love. I love the message. So what's your hope now for your book readers?
Thank you so much, and it's really kind of you to say that. And my biggest hope is that reading that book will inspire you and will remind you that everything that you need is already within you. It's all already within you. You don't have to wait for someone to give it to you. You don't need to no longer be held prisoner by this belief that you're somehow not enough or not complete, and that maybe one day you will be. No, you already are. And if you change that mindset, then everything shifts, because then really you can begin to take action, and you can start to create the change that you want to see in your life. And I think that for me was my biggest wish, that that readers would leave with that sense, and also know that that this book is like a companion that you can dip in and out, and each chapter, at the end of each chapter, there are really practical actions, and you can do some of them now, some of them later, or like don't do any now, maybe do them later, or it's really for you to use, because just to realize that you are, and I think I say this in my introduction, you're the hero of your own story, and you are the change, right, that you are dreaming of. So that's what I wish for all of you.
Oh, I love that. You're the hero of your own story. And I love, love, love your hope and message, because no wonder you are like a sister from another mother, as they would say, because sisterhood is here. Because with my book too, it starts with me. I just believe that everything starts from within. And I think my mum, when I was little, would recite me a little Dorothy, a little poem or a little saying, which is everything is the power. It comes from within, or the power is from within. And that really resonated with me. And you know what I thought, Brita, for many, many years, I thought, I want to write this book. And I realized if I want to write a book, I've just got to sit down and write the book. And I didn't need anyone to tap me on the shoulder to say, hey, Yvette, you're such a good writer. We'd love to publish your book. I just went, you know what? I'm just going to write it, self-publish it. I got it into the bookstores myself, and I'm going to make it happen. It starts with me. that's been the biggest lesson. And that's why I love your book too, because it's that empowerment message of, if you want to do it, you make it happen. You don't wait for someone. I could be waiting another 40 years for someone to never tap me on the shoulder and say, you're a great writer. Would you like to write a book for us? Like, it happens to some people, but not the majority of people.
Absolutely. So, I think that's exactly right. If you want to do it, do it. Do it.
Yeah.
Oh, how exciting.
Just do it. Make it happen. And everything, like you said, you have the power. Everything comes from within. And when we wait for validation from someone from outside of us, which we were raised like that. We were raised that someone of authority would one day say to you, hey, we think you're talented, or we think you have what it takes. Now you can write your story, or now you can share your story. And that's why I love Fierce to Fierce, because you say, you have the power. Just use your voice. You don't need anyone to say, it's okay for you to use your voice and share your story, or it's okay for you to say what happened or speak up. No. You don't have to, no tapping on the shoulder here. Exactly. It all starts from within. So Brita, how can we now stay in touch with you and become part of Women for Women International, and also part of your community, and continue this Fierce to Fierce, I guess, dialogue, or, movement? It really is now a movement, Fierce to Fierce. It's becoming a movement, a Me Too, but it's a Fierce to Fierce movement, where it's like, you know what, Fierce to Fierce, like, it's incredible to see what's happening with your book.
Oh, you're so lovely. Do you know, I had these goosebumps right now, because I do see it as a movement, because it's moving all the time, isn't it? And it's a never-ending journey. There will always be fear again, but your fierce is always within you. So you can get through any amount of fear, because you've got your fierce right there by your side, right? And you can always choose fierce. So thank you for saying that. Yeah, you can find me on all social media channels at Brita FS. I've also got a website, which is britafs.com. And you can sign up to my newsletter. For Women International is on at Women for Women. So you can find us on Instagram, or womenforwomen.org is the website. And I'd love to hear from you. Obviously, if you've read the book, let me know what you think. If you have any questions, get in touch. Like you say, I think of this as such a beautiful organic community that has been growing. And I'm so deeply grateful for that. And I'm so happy to have met you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this incredible conversation. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brita. It's been an absolute honor. I'm such a fan of your work. I love your work. It's deeply moving, fulfilling. It's the whole Women for Women International, but the book now, because for me, like, I have such a diverse, I've got spa owners who might be, late 50s, early 60s, late 60s. We've got 40-year-olds, 20 with teenagers, but such a vast and right around the world. And one of the common things I have is women who now they think they're in their 50s or early 60s, don't believe that they have the right to get up and share their story or use social media because they're not young enough. And to be empowering them to say, yes, share your story, share your wisdom, age. Don't worry about what age you are, and connecting them to their true heart and soul and source is empowering. So your work and your book is going to help so many women and men, anyone of any age, because I've just on this journey never realized when it comes to public speaking also. For me, I'm so passionate. I could get up in front of 100,000 people and, like, bring me more, bring me more. But, you know, when someone has to talk, just even say to their customers now online through a video, that can be so overwhelming. And just to go from fears into fierce with your book is really going to help overcome those nerves and connect to their true source. So, Brita, thank you again for being with us today and the global Spirit Girl community. Your work, I often refer to you as a Mother Teresa, but in a modern twist. But you really remind me of someone like that, who's just on this mission to help people selflessly, like not for your own fame and not for the followers, and, you know, not for the glamour, not for the photos, the selfie, and that's really a real beauty and a real gift. So thank you for all of the women. I'm sure would be like, yeah, Brita, high five. You know, I can just imagine the women that you've helped will just be roaring for you. And I get goosebumps while I say that. But the more people we can inspire to help and serve others, as well as fill their own cup up, the greater this world can be. So thank you again, Brita. Been an honor. Can't wait to have you on the show again. Can't wait to have you on the show maybe in a year's time, and we can talk about more stuff and more women's stuff and continue this conversation.
Can we? Shall we do that? Let's intention now. Thank you, thank you for these beautiful words. I will absolutely treasure them. Honestly, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, you're incredible. Like, life-changing, life-giving, transformational, and well done to your team as well. Let's not forget your team, your publishers, all of your book champions, all of the book readers so far who are sharing the book, also to all of the Women for Women International, because I know you've talked so much about your team, and it's so important. Behind every good woman or man, as they say, is always a team. So big thanks to the team as well. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
well, we'll say goodbye to you, Brita. We'll say goodbye to you, Brita. Thank you again. Spirit Girl podcast listeners, we're saying goodbye to Brita Fernandez Schmidt. Get that right. The German coming out. In Germany, from Germany, and now based in the UK. Brita,
thank you so much. Sorry?
Yeah, so Brita, I'm going to say you're still now based in the UK.
Yes, that's right. Exactly, I am.
Well, I'm glad you're out of lockdown. That's the most incredible thing this year to happen, that you're all out of lockdown now. So we'll say goodbye to Brita. To our Spirit Girl podcast listeners, thank you for tuning in each week. I really am super grateful. I truly hope this helps you and inspires you to be your true, authentic self, to go within, as Brita said, to connect with your fears. So what's coming up for you? How does something make you feel? And then going off to do further research and finding a way. I loved one of the key messages to come from this podcast show is to not say, I can't do anything about that. What am I going to do about that? And to believe that you can make change. And another key message that I really, really resonated with me was it only takes one woman to share her story, and then for another woman to say, me too, me too. And one of the greatest stories that Brita shared was the change agents, how they got together in sisterhood and how important sisterhood is to make change. That just one by ourselves isn't really sometimes enough to make a movement. But to make change, we need other women to rally against us, to believe in us, to see us as sisters, not in competition, but in community. So I just love it. So thank you again, Brita. Thank you again to the Spirit Girl Talk Show podcast audience. Be sure to subscribe, to leave a rating and review, and to tell someone you love to. And together, let's feel good from within. Bye for now.